music or noise, 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 music or noise.
Attention Segway shoppers, we're going to get started in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
can I just put it on display mode just so that it's on the right? Okay, and then, so I just change it myself, right?
also a remote.
Okay, perfect. Okay, excellent, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this Segue Reading Series. My name is Ryan, or Rai. I will be your first introducer and flight attendant for the evening. Exits over there. Please buy the books. But before we begin, we just wanted to thank Artist Space and Segue for having Future Poem have this season. It's been we're in the penultimate duo, and it's been a pretty kick-ass season, if I do say so myself. So thank you for giving us that space. Yeah, we're gonna start with Laura Jaramillo, and I'm had the privilege of introducing Laura today. So when my friends got out of their arraignment, covered in long blankets, smoking their many cigarettes, they told us that the NYPD breaking into the windows of Hind Hall and throwing flashbangs sounded like guns going off. This makes sense due to the fact that flashbangs have the ability to blow appendages off, and the fact that the cop actually fired a gun by accident while trying to activate his flashlight. So much light used as a penetrative force, so much ambiguity in the dark. The epigraph by Diderot at the start of Laura's book, "What difference is there to a blind man between a man making water and one bleeding to death," leans into this ambiguity, as does the rest of her collection, which feels horrifically timely. All of history, the story of its retraction, the squats and encampments taken over by the knifey glamour of the filial names and economics, the ecstasy of class and mirrored display. If the storage unit throws our clothes and letters in the trash, let us not live in remembrance of them, page 20. It's easy to get wrapped up in the alluring drama of dissent. The media adopted flashy images of the students in all black breaking windows and waving flags on rooftops, but Laura warns against this, not of the act of dissent, but the marketability of the act. She writes, "The special violence from all which we suffer goes all pink and green, holographic in the evening sun, that all of existence could be pleasure palace, that all of survival could be a boot to the neck or of the other." 75. Laura's work comforted me through all its fragments that felt like reading and stumbling into the middle of a silent film and waking up in the desert, letting little bits of mineral mix with bile and rot. I saw blood and water seeping into the UCLA grass as rubber bullets are shot at the professors and students alike. I saw the video and then went back to reading Laura's book, only to read her poem, Handedness, which starts, "Rubber bullets rebounding off the backs of passengers in Atocha. Which nation really loves work?" He climbed the pole rigged with cameras in Bahrain, wearing a baklava, tectonic seizure, continuous cuts, a committed poetry, page 66. Laura's work is a committed poetry, elegiac, acrostic, and soothsaying, propelling us forward. She sees a better world and knows it requires us to call out language in order to be. English, the language of knives and incorporation, the language of instruments. News outlets saying the encampments are about free speech on campus and that while we are outside, there were outside detractors. These stories detract from the reason behind the dissent, a divestment of war machine of Israel and the action against the complacency that higher ed has within the genocide of the people of Gaza. It's hard for me when reading not to relate this to Laura's work to the world we all, artist space included, are complicit in. The work highlights this unflinching relationship to imaginations and existence into the current world. I have started reading and again believing in language, partially due to her, and how the dusk draws fiery orbs on the wall and play as a memory of freedom. Give it up for Laura.
Thank you so much for that super kind intro, Ryan. That's
I would like to live up to that. So it's really great to be here tonight. Thank you also to Future Poem and Seg for having me. It's really nice to return to this space. I'm just going to read some poems from Making Water, which Future Poem published, and then I'm going to mostly read from my new manuscript, which is a kind of follow-up to Making Water, and it's called Burning Sequence, but I'll tell you more about that later. Brain flowers. Play classical music for the plants. Shale that once clasped a shell to its heart ranged round the terrace. The gardener cuts the bark to show me it bleeds a milk. Perfect stairs drawn up into a rock, record of centuries. Rain, chicken pox, parasites, the purity of boredom. Droplets drip down the tips, inverted translucent bells of forgetting. He's gone now, but had been to study Datura with the native people. She said, that dense atmosphere, there, eyes stud the foliage. Vertigo, running down the spiral stairs during light rationing. Processed to powder in urban bars in the capital, take off your shoes, give me your car keys, sit on the ground. The house's high-walled enclosures blink with broken bottle shards, bougainvillea below. Blue, green, brown, transparent, the complete anamnesis and amnesia. Suppression of proper motor functions, the will, memory loss serums introduced to the garden by its own fruit. They'll say, look at that fallen world, and we'll look north. Flying ointments for young initiates. My eyes are open, but I can't see. Piel roja smoke climbs around afternoon sunlight. Sunday, listen to him speak on the effect of rock versus classical in plant growth. The farm, a cement house in the jungle, ground gives way with orange ferment, fallen vine. Plant sentience explained in the book with a Rousseau painting on its face. The lion eats his repast behind vine and bird of paradise. When asked to draw Eden, she reproduced this. Days speaking one tongue, years another. It makes you feel imaginary. Henri never saw the jungle. It was possible for him to paint that place of total non-identity in which the lion sits. I'm a primitive placeholder for meaning folded into the leaves of experience. Imagination was that fallen middle class world. The heart muscle by nature weaker in the very tall circulating blood through long limbs, mocking the height of mountains in North America, pointing to our Alps in Chile. It was early when he died on the sofa. And I'm gonna read one more poem from this book. I want to read one of the ones that Ryan invoked. This is called War Machine. And I don't know if it's useful for you to know, but I live in North Carolina, and the coast of North Carolina, I think, is a very beautiful and special place, but it's very imbricated with the military-industrial complex. So sometimes you'll go to the ocean and it'll be like this kind of like cerulean and purple day, and then all of a sudden there'll be like military choppers in the water. So anyway, War Machine. So much purple asleep in the green of the sea, luminous Carolina sky crossed with cumulus cotton balls. Colors recoil when military choppers blow back water's first 10 veils. Today, no planes circulate above Ferguson, Missouri. Edge of vomit, edge of everything. They were wrapping light around their bodies and shitting in the water. Spraying sunscreen into the atmosphere because my not body replaces my torso with air, and the war machine's contours are becoming in the honeyed light. Heavens rent with metal, sand, kaleidoscopic beneath us. Swimmers applaud, beckoning the machines into the water. The special violence from which we suffer goes all pink and green, holographic in the evening sun. That all of existence could be a pleasure palace, that all of survival could be a boot to the neck of the other. Our time, an orchestra heard in the distance, sinking. We were so beautiful that day, all consumer metaphysics and pink meat ribboned with phosphorescent fat. I took 37 pictures of myself in the back seat to make sure I still existed. Animals on the road petrify when light hits their eyes. Let your body go like water, the car revolving our airborne forms, leaves and mud revolving the car, floating in silence with its terror and force through the sinews. She understood then that incoherence as dying, splayed through the violent will to live. Curiously, the drone is a whale with no face. There are frequencies inside the chest that hum in absolute fear, and it moves as a mantis moves, cutting air with its not animal countenance. Pterodactyl circle and cacti hiss, edge of vomit, edge of everything. Heat maps mark the movement of blood-bearing bodies across desert sand. The operators open their interfaces ribbed with fire, tipped in blood. The men pull over to peek over the side of a ditch crew cut and rosy. The men disappointed were not hurt, wanting to have been heroes, or at least become the one holding the terror and force, the fire and percussive blowback, the shrapnel and tie cuffs, the paperwork of modernity. The men perform ice operations at the Spawn Ranch, at Aravaca, at Tabernas. They'll fake out a frontier in the desert of the real if they have to, abide by some basic banality to serve, then oil the contours of their physiques. The one man with such a Barbie-like arc in his tit, pectoral, muscle, the technological veil, pneumatic, virtually weightless, Kevlar condemned to bear the melancholy of RoboCop's sensuous pink lip. The pilots rip open a breach in being, becoming war gods in a sky from which the regular gods have retracted to rend the veil of women only to conceal their own faces so they may never witness themselves being seen by their marks. All right, so we can the projector be turned on? Or do I have to turn it on? I wasn't. Okay, oh, I see. Awesome. I hope that works. Oh. Okay. While that happens, I'll just introduce this this work, which is called Burning Sequence. And tonight, this reading is a bit of an experiment because I have the ability to project. And am I standing in front of it, or can you see the work? Yes. Okay. Is it dark enough for you to read the poems? Just a little. That would be really ideal. Thank you. So yeah, it's a little bit of an experiment, but Burning Sequence is about sort of the echoes that exist between 9/11 and the pandemic, and it's really thinking about the cultural history of the present as one that is deeply in the wake of the year 2001. So that's probably all you need to know. Thank you, everyone, for the technical support. Having been in secret disobedience, having been in constant submission, having been in constant consonance, I and I have been perfect enemies. Ritual 1. Play the footage backwards and the girls actually explode out of the lake. The glass glitters backwards into the towers. The hanged man's infinite fall from a flaming turret is placed in the deck of cards on the desk, folded back into representation always. We're the frayed edge, guillotined and spliced. We're like when days of heaven melted inside the projector and I could see a burning hole open inside Richard Gere's face, and I thought, good, fuck your magic hour, fuck your cowboy fantasy forever. We're the spectators and the burning sequence, forgetting itself forever. If I can turn the page. Ritual 2. The fires are virtual, a scythe across liquid crystal, touching cyan, touching magenta, touching yellow. I look on an observer of an observer, hear myself winding words I do believe and ones I don't. To be loved, to make money, to feed my house, to lay a truce with things, to manufacture reality with a faulty glue in the days of enclosure. I'm like anyone playing out the late Styles puzzles, like anyone running out the clock, / my feet don't move in the dream, / I should get away to survive. I know this, and my body militates against speed. The terror accretes in our teeth, becoming music, television, and film. Ritual 3. Wave as in warrior. Buckshot sprays through the social body at all times at this time. A man walks into the theater halfway through the film, into the aisles. I freeze, the dive reflex takes me, and I think, this is the end. The man dives under a seat only to find his wallet. I think, wow, I'm still alive, and in quick succession, what now? Really, you underestimate how much having something to prop your elbow on is what gives you the leverage to turn a page. Estrogen dominance, Cape Fear gifts, endocrine rift, distended tits, general dollar, fluoropolymer. Ritual 4. Truth's echo rattling around inside what the man says, corn kernel in a tin can, penny on the bus floor, hot dog whistling down a hallway, man just arrived in town, man out of nowhere, man on the radio, man on the TV, man on the message boards. When the transmissions come, when the transmissions fall, when the transmissions roll down the mountain, and a false eclipse smogs the sun, well then on that day, we won't even need him to have our neighbor's blood sluicing down our arms. Our man in Panama, our man in Kiev, our man in the Mercedes, our man in the unmarked van. We'll do it to one another, souls flooded with virtue, light streaming from our eyes. Try to describe power and the tongue slaloms. Its thousand masks slip and it's gone. No one holds it, not even the man. Now a notch symbol in the hatchet of the night. Now the truth of my life and its price encrypted on a server. Now a black sun tattooed on the soldier of fortune's elbow, driving a cab from Bogota to Tel Aviv. We'll get to the top of the holy mountain, mind suffering, disintegrated, and ask the guru, is this the end? And he'll say, no, there is never an end. So actually, this poem is, not all the concrete poems are made of appropriated text, but all the lines in this poem actually are. And the first line is a line from the Joseph Donahue poem, Desire, which I read in Leonard Schwartz's class, and Leonard Schwartz is in the front row. And just to give you a sense of how much those lines seared themselves in my head. Anyway, little stories. Desire's green and gold corona, body is the foundation of the screen. Body, make of me a man who questions. Be careful how desire is gridded. Ritual 5. We run from the check at dinner into a movie theater with modern seats like sculptures. As the three protagonists hold hands, a fireball engulfs them and the earth, and we who have known the end from the first weep. The three of us holding hands across the seats. I turn to you and say, finally, a film where a depressed woman stars in the end of the world. What cleaves us, this mantilla of doubt that anything can be without mourning? Oh, sleepless nights, oh, sunless life, oh, sleepless kite, oh, sunless laugh, oh, sunless light, oh, sleepless knife, oh, sunless screen, oh, sleepless blue, oh, sunless white, oh, sleepless dew, oh, sunset life, oh, senile light, oh, sundry moon, oh, sleepless fights, oh, sunless heights, oh, sleepless dice, oh, sick fate. O sunless tongue, O stigmatic flesh, O stony tent, O serpent nerves, O summer tearing, O ruthless sight, O slipping sands, O uncertainty, O grace, O sunless life, O sun, O life. And this is called Coronal Plain. A virulent golden spring roars outside louder than I can know when my legs are cramped from laying in this damp bed day and night. I walk through a door and that door is time. How suddenly I am no one and yet my back is still fucked. All things blown across a field of static into unreadable ambiguity. I think obsessively about a job. Sleep leaves me. For the 8th time, I have not really answered the committee's question the right job might give me. I'm still trying to figure it out. Wanting the job is only wanting to be moored to the world or floating like a naked woman inside a giant wreath, the winds at each meridian holding her aloft, a fantasy of body as world, open and unwounded. Naive to want the world so fiercely as it's dismantled, affection for strangers' accents heard in passing. In the before, or the gum and peeling varnish of tables we hid under as children, or the acrylic and wool of other people's sweaters unraveling impersonally now in landfills. To want this world of discourse and dust and shit is a sin. But the earliest remembered feeling is that want of the world, the presence of something, anything that would make it normal to live. Metered pleasures, attrition of pleasure, a burning bridge between two worlds. This poem is called En la Calle. In my life, my favorite places were just places we could go. Entire childhood days spent at the movies with my mother. Let your body go in the liquid dark of the lit up screen. Let the soup steam curls into wind-bitten hair. I stick my hand down your pants at the Cineplex Odeon, the whole city inside. And always amongst strangers, never not amongst strangers. At the turn of the 21st century, what was a city but a collection of people with nowhere to be, sometimes christened in droplets of another's meal, that coronal haze we are born into, bacteria, carnality crowding. There are so many ways I could tell it, but in all ways it would simply describe a loss. How a body pouring soup into itself cannot generate the necessary revenue, all the comfort a little cash can buy. How space transmuted into money becomes vaulted emptiness. The cities we built with our work, alien cathedrals, so unfor us. Now the town, even the country, spits us out. This poem is called Value Theory. Rain of ash through the Italian market, heavy scent of pig split end to end. Ice wind peppered with salt meat and carbon, trash and newspapers, embers that barbecue the frigid sun in smoking drums. Then the gleaners come and Daniel sings in Ladino, offers us bruised peaches and Roma tomatoes bloated in plastic bags, but you refuse, chide me for thinking to eat trash. We're just on our way to the Acme here to cash out the coin of the realm. 7 bags of pennies for 3 days before the stipend hits, the longest days. The problem of centuries assails us. Money, men, women, and power, the body, demands certain things. Deodorant, soap, birth control. That I am not yet starving, that I have not yet starved, proof I'm just a petty bourgeois aspirant. Because a man can live on nothing, and girls, well, they always need something. You say women back home would tolerate some drunk asshole who'd beat them as long as he brought home a check. Like you and I are high on the hog, living some high water mark of gender relations. Like you and the long dream of liberal feminism coincide to put working class women to work for you forever. Being the clever pig who knows sacrifice is the basis of all exchange does not save your neck from the slat. I think of you sleeping in some cemetery as a teenager, how long since prison you've been neither alive nor dead. How we're still suspended in the moment before turning a blind corner to be robbed with a 9mm to your head under the streetlights, where blurry images, our bodies segmenting out into 1,000 forms, how I would reverse everything but still steal that framed penny embroidery with Abe Lincoln's bust on its face as our trophy. The poor rob the poor, while George W. Bush declares we've won the war. And that is all I have for you, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laura. We have her book for sale, and we're going to take a very sharp 5, smoke the fastest cigarette that you can, buy some books, and be back here at 5:40. Thank you.
But I'm sad to say it never made the grade. That was me. Third guitar. I wonder where the others are. I sold the guitar today. I never could play much anyway. And we'd play for her the song she liked best to have us play. On Vine Street, Vine Street, the crack of the backbeat on Vine Street. Swinging along on the wings of a song, an alliance secure. self-righteous and sure. Why, we'd things to say that the people would pay to hear us play. On Vine Street. Palm Desert market to buy tenderfoot up-to-date palms of the real estate. Palm Desert springs often run dry. Western to Hollywood, Neverland juxtaposed, BBD and Odeon, San Fernando on hillside, manners on the banks of Dodger City. Those below and those above the same.
Hello. The break is now over. Yes, we're gonna get started again. So, hey everyone, I'm Aiden, managing editor at Future Poem. Laura, so wonderful to revisit your book and hear you read in this space once again. That was a real treat. And yeah, it is the penultimate reading of our Future Poem curating this season of Segue, and I just wanted to say thank you again, James and Lonely. It's been really wonderful to use this time and space to feature our authors, as well as friends of our authors. Yeah, I am going to introduce the much esteemed Charles Alexander, our second reader. Charles Alexander is a maker. His primary area of making is poetry and essays, i.e. the art of words, but some people know him equally as a maker and publisher of books. A collection of new poems by him, Time Being, was just released in October 2023, which we have for sale. Other books include Hopeful Buildings, Arc of Light / Dark Matter, Near or Random Acts, Certain Slants, Pushing Water, and At the Edge of the Sea, Pushing Water 2. Truro Shift, the third volume of Pushing Water, will be out in 2024. His poetry and prose have also been issued in more than a dozen chapbooks or fine press editions. He has taught at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Naropa University, the University of Arizona, Pima Community College, and the University of Houston, Victoria. He is a former director of the Tucson Poetry Festival, helped to found and still serves on the board of POG, a poetry and arts presenting collaborative, and was instrumental in the development of the Tucson Warehouse Arts District in the 90s and early 2000s. He has participated in the Tamas Poetry Translation Project in Paris, France, and the CAAP, Chinese American Association for Poetry and Poetics, conferences in China and in US poets in Mexico. His selected poems, translated by Chengdu, will be published in China. In 2021, he earned the CLMP Award for Lifetime Achievement in Literary Publishing. He currently writes a column for American Book Review about poets and printers. He is married to the artist Cynthia Miller, and they live in Tucson, Arizona. Please welcome Charles.
Thank you, Aiden. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Daniel in the back, doing the tech work, everyone at Future Poem, and certainly everyone at Segue, James, Deborah, Lonely, and everyone for coming tonight. And those people in this room, actually, I've known for 43 years. And And one in this room I've known all her life, but that is not 43 years yet. It's a family program. I sometimes do something like what Laura just did in terms of reading something recent, published and something new. This time I'm going to read something old and then something published not so long ago. And I grabbed a notebook to write in for this trip. I left 4 days ago, I guess, from Tucson, Arizona, and I didn't realize the notebook I grabbed was a notebook I began in 2005 with my wife, and we traded it back and forth, and so gathered, parts of each of us in a way. And I'm just going to read a couple of snippets from that and hope that this kind of works as some kind of intro. So, vocabulary is a space, a curve of one letter into another. One word washes up against an open space, sound of a bottom, sound of a middle. Excuse me. The middle space. The middle space, mezzo soprano, in my house, listening to Handel. Now I'll do the rest of the reading with that voice. No, I hope not. I hope not. Especially because the other piece I want to read from this is a sound poem, which I'm not doing so much anymore, but it was here, so you get it. 5 short pieces. Azumbra nagrovo, malapinkashu ni, malapinkashu dai, Zapinsk. 2. Ali cha pi, lin no zi dan, picky, hi. 3. So low, vagre zabant nigai, dumbra din, shegon, oliva, so low, o. 4. What graf umba, shaksun taklen afaromba magar, linkipa rabuot notre agali, liego lia. And 5. Eoag bafarzim, aru tamanifra ash, ekana lifdasozo, jurian de, frobana bafur zim. Okay. Oh, thanks. And then I wanted to read a little bit of a poem in this book called The Last of the Pushing Waters. I've been working on that poem since 2009, maybe, The Pushing Water. This is the first volume of it, and I decided to read the first poem in that big work, because I haven't read it in a long time. And also I realized fairly recently that the way I begin it, and this was sort of unbeknownst to me at the time, is the line, "This man, strange turning," which could be a translation of the first description of Odysseus in the Odyssey. In that, I think the Greek translates more to this many-sided man. But, strange turning, that kind of works too. And so I don't know if I was channeling Homer or not, but we'll see. It's translated by someone fairly recently as this complicated man. This man strange turning, forgetful, though not in a line, abiding to want oranges, and not a color so much as through the tunnel pushing water, reading a turn into some blue note. Ashes, brass gate closed, but a space under, level or tool for moving. Same, but shadows upon brown boxes, books, yellow cat, nothing lists as if breathing matters. Crocus beside, along, otherwise aslant, and stripes, sure can't away now or want. Doing for reach, elbow still surprises unfurnished, as though leaving means line break, body open, callous, asking without rancor. Not what keeps night's premise that points never starry. Say what one wall, hearing owls among, rising a single point for horizon's will, my or their intention, witnessed ever walking for notions, encounters, as fine this hour a line wants edge, aloof and strengthened with no idea, ground upon lack, turning other to cheeks' sadness, ripe, lively wanting, or unstraightened enough to place in mouth, hand, wash, taste down, forks upon nothing. Accordingly, original upheaval merges, rimless engraved with Defoe's initials, plunging sea-like, concerned with the address of a rose, static wanders to empty spaces cling true. Suits or untied hair muted. A long time ago, a trumpet G-sharp to B, odd sonority, unfounded with an oboe, Pierrot rebeckoning. The border is not necessarily a margin. That gap water permeates, asking hosannas to be silent. Prayer may be received or taken while sitting, facing wood, politics closed to mourners. Another world jumps on fathers. Some paragraphs, announcement and justice poses a fable. Prayer and the book try to make responsible, deaf or out from under. That space, the subsequent, previous appearance of children, imperatives, request the occupation of bare feet, high sounding, in open territory or aware. So a lot of morphing in that work. And another friend who is both a printer and poet and publisher told me he thought bring out a book that included what will be all 3 volumes of Pushing Water, but only if I was willing to tell him I was going to stop writing anymore. So the last of the Pushing Waters was my response. The last of the Pushing Waters, until it's not the last, because Doctor says so, says there are no perfect waves, though we have lived our lives by water, by wits, or by accident. Yes, by accident or wave, and perhaps there are no accidents either. Either or and the space between. We have lived our lives by water. Whether the deep blue of the Pacific with its mighty lives of whales and waves and survivors, Ishmael among others, Ishmael among the letters and numbers, or rivers mostly dry and mostly sandy, the Rito, the San Juan, and the Canadian, the longest tributary of the Arkansas, begins in Colorado, and at various points, sand pits along the banks witness acts of love and the migrations of birds, such as cranes. Cranes move in waves, and we live by water. A few creeks or washes, wet or dry, because we find ourselves both wet and dry, in and out of rains, in and out of other sorts of tears. Here the poem washes up and washes us, because without the poem we have steady drops, but no pools, no lives that speak of life we could not live with. I cannot live with you, nor live without. Now the waters in the canyon recede, but the blooms are full on in orange and white and purple and pink and red, colors of canyons, colors of love's imaginings. No hope, if not a coral island slowly forming out there among the waves, the crash of the waves. Among of blue crest, old and new, bright reflection, broken with branches and time. Come home, how white and erect, sweet it may, again and again. Start again with accident and apology. Once upon a leaf, who was there when I placed the leaf upon a doorway, a leaf inscribed with words on an autumn day in California's cool East Bay for a friend to find, a poem to find in love, to find a way, make all things find a way and a wing and a wave, gather and disperse, the last of the pushing, the last of the falling, waters gather and disperse. In warm April, in the years not quite beyond disease or desire, disperse and gather, desire and contract, now release. Okay, I'm going to say something else because I'm feeling a little loquacious tonight. Probably because I've been in another part of New York having like a 10-hour conversation with poets, and you'd think I'd be tired of talking, but no, it's just once more. I just want to say that these generally are poems, this one and all the ones in this book, written during this COVID period, and gathered later, actually, at the suggestion of another poet that had read them and thought, this has got to be a book. And so it's a little bit acts of attention and memory, and the attention to be even things that are right out my window, like right out my window of my little office in our house are these two Aleppo pine trees, about 60, 70 feet tall. And for the last several years, we've had a family of hawks that nest there. So we've been watching those hawks, sometimes even helping those hawks, because hawks are terrible nest builders. And their nest has blown down in a storm, and we've had to take baby hawks to animal rescue and bring them back and then make a fake nest for them. And of course, their parents find them. And if anybody ever tells you that once humans have messed with birds, their parents won't mess with birds again, this is bullshit. It's total bullshit. Their parents love them. Okay, so she flies again. A small hawk waits for her return. And across waters and lands and waters, time, wisdom, and koalas wait for other returns, other time, or is it the same? Love and water, love of water. Sometimes a spirit rests in the darkness of the body. Sometimes a spirit finds no rest before flight. Sometimes find tests and marks of wear in the swirls of leaves by wind, again, leaves in autumn in a college town after one kind of loss, one life's loss. Life, a series of asymmetries and pronouns and gathas and 20s and 40s and works of light in the water and out of the water. What did he see before in the worrisome light of a verb phrase or a nova or a no, sir, other than the constant yes of love of the poems? When dreams were not, and dreams were as air. We live in a time of hydration, whether one is drinking water in order to live or another jumps from a boat in order to live where boats and waters define and transcend borders and honors. Is there honor? Is there honor in a word, a glance, a light? Oh, love who places all where each is. No, that's too easy. And maybe it all simply and decidedly should be easy, and we just consistently fuck it up with degrees of concern, contempt, or tempos, confused and fused. The foot is variable, the word variable, the line variable, and when we set it in stone, we deny a force, but when we set it in type, we augment a force on paper and in paper, and remember that paper begins in water, as though grace could save a language in the dirt on the other side of air, where a strange man turns forgetful, not in a line or a foot or a variable motion. In short, he wanders. And the lettering of the wandering becomes a map of locations, a map of tessellation, a map possibly of love, possibly other. He picks up a book again, places stones again, walks alone, though not abandoned, no matter what the child may imagine. The intention or the accident depends on the way the hand reaches through water, always past all accident, penetrates or begins to penetrate again all the cracks, the crevices of a world I will hate to leave an earthly paradise, or as much as one might have of one, the full and partial colors given by one love, one woman through years, by those same and utterly strange waters. Shared pictures of vessels, pictures of chairs, pictures of snow through car windows, pictures of windows in urban spaces in New York and Paris, and home again where a blue deer finds us. But no, not even the prospect of leaving can lead me to bring this to a close. What does not close is the will to open. Open the will, open the door, open the floodgates. We would if only enough water can be found. Go about it the slow way if you can, whether it be money or water, honey or mustard. The opposite of all is dearth. A dearth of earth may be something to prescribe against, something to prescribe in spite of, something to describe in something less than meters or light years. He said, I am a poet, I am, but where does that and $1 land you? What land does it bear? Not so dire, as the sea remains, is there in its profundity to admire and to warn, sea, weeds, and as murmurous where murmurs are interruptions of heartbeats in the young and in the old, in cases where kindness only begins the process. Lucky to begin in the middle of an ocean. Triple lucky, with such love amid the blue, they were kind to me there, and in the midst of past dust bowls along Route 66 and towns named Burns Flat and Dill City and Weather Ford, as though the weather might be forded, as though we might afford the weather, even if everything twists in the sky. The leaves are very green, Doctor. If you haven't heard yet, there's a lot of little dialogue going on between my words and William Carlos Williams in here. So that's the doctor I'm thinking of, and I was reading his work all over again while working on this. The leaves are very green, Doctor, my friend, my teacher, my companion on a day early in a century of rising seas, rising heat, rising migration, where migration only previews what we all will know. The race is on, and it looks like tumbleweeds, though what once were meadows in which bare feet ran. One cannot plan the poem. No, it happens in one's blinking moments. In one's mind and in the world we imagine, but we only imagine what we make, have made, and will make. May we have enough strength to keep the weeds at bay. Many proclaim what leads us astray, and we cannot pray or go away. Not today, no, not today. Journey to love, perhaps, with everything open to the rain. Remember that New York day, arriving at the conference, of A and thee and 80 flowers sopping wet from the trains and the streets, removing socks and shoes to hang and dry on racks while we told stories of words and piled up stones of words, left for lunch and returned, left for air with Simon and did not return. That kind of openness to turn and return and not take much stock in stockpiling eloquence and addresses to rack up degrees of achievement. The words are best kept in poems, most explosive there, most wanting, most saving. In that great storm, pitiful Lear, could you even then outshout the room, outshake the storm? Go down Persephone, go down Cora, go down Isis, go down Jason, go down Odysseus, go down where the edge of the sea leads to some new turning, some new slouching, some new light, poem, love. I have been close to the mountaintop and at the edge of the sea, and in your land of color scratched and brushed and wept into paper. Inside that color, we are one and not one. Inside the scratches, we are two and not two. Inside the brush and the tears, we sit, hands in a soft circle, eyes cast downward, spine straight. We may catch a light, catch a word, catch fire, catch air, catch a breath, which is a chance. In the crater, which also lay inside those colors and brushes, we lay under a plethora of lights, as though pinned against the bottom of a bowl, where at the top the lights played with the universe, subtle visitadora, cherry blossoms illumining the dark, deep midnight blue sky. You play with the light of the universe. We lay there together until over one lip of land, sun rises again at dawn in the world we have yet to define or measure. In that cup, and the cup is a poem, we live with the light, we live with the words of our own and others' making. What is the poem inside our breathing, breathing, breathing? Repeat the word breathing slowly until no more utterance is possible, no more breath remains. So let's return there to the regular clerestories and the Baltimore porches. No further back, Noel. When you swung a bat like an axe and laughed low and long, not loud, but the laugh included us all, you, me, the water, the ducks, Ben, Justin, and the music. But it wasn't your heart in that power swing. You were made for the poem, not the one written down, but the one inside what was written down, inside what will ever be written down. So though you passed at the young age of 30, you really did not pass at all. The song does not burn, the song does not pass, the poem passes to the ages, and I will help carry you and that swing and that laugh into the next river, into the still falling water, the pushing, falling, deeply rolling waters. I'm not at all keeping track of time. I'm all right for a little while more, okay. Spring must have sprung. As in my house, I'm dancing and singing loudly to Dylan's knocking on heaven's door, but it's not too dark to see, and writing this poem, which keeps all of those spinning things spinning, drying the drenched shoes and socks, and searching for the saints. Yes, those saints, Saint Rate and Saint Range, Saint and BP, and all of the northern and southern lights with Saint Francis among the daffodils. Though here, it's irises, the roses. I rises and I rose among the wildflowers on the other side, not too dark, but too bright at times, to see the sun in the desert, relents in the night, and we sleep within the music. The desert music, the insensate music where the dance begins, and we attend bound into a whole by the poem that surrounds us, and that will be continued after the interlude of madrigals, mad and regal, mindful and rugged, mass of right angles. Shake the flowers until the petals, blue and white, fall to earth. But what goes on above? Another young hawk, after we had thought the loss of the last one might be the end of the nest, in our tree high above the flower petals. We have had hawks for a few years now. Their sad babies cry for food and stern parental cries of warning. The poem in the tree and the hawks in the tree are the same thing. It is all the same fabric, if not the same weave. The big tent, if not the same gospel songs sung. No revival, for there has been no ebb tide, no loss. Dive in or wade in or fall into the water. Look up at the Aleppo pine. Know the colors of yellow, green, and blue. Our eyesight measures the distance. The elements measure our eyes. And we know love is to reason as eyes to mind, which gets us halfway there. The rest is act, use, playing the changes. This the past weekend we heard Mingus's Changes with piano, trumpet, saxophone, drums, and bass in a collective otherness, not unison, but excess and wandering in the same time and tongue, weather and water. Whereas once a wing and a word, a wave and a way, blue and gray on a coast of dreams, two coasts, more dreams among the seals in cold waters, healed in cold waters, knelt in cold waters, or in a large hand lifted up with others, other peoples and rocks and plants and animals. We share the hand, hear the bands, wrap around each other, dance into some new measure, some variable line, always columns growing on paper like stacks of buildings or stacks of smoke in an autumn sky. These we make to find home, the home also the poem. These we make to warm, together to warm. You of the bright and muted and ever-changing colors, to join words to what you bring, to bring words to what you join. Words in columns, words in waves, words in clouds, words in communion, words in words in words, as though one might unfold the world there and there and there, as though one could begin to be inside the word, inside the poem, inside that love incarnate, where carnate is a series of 7 letters, 7 columns of lines, arrangements of lines in communion, in folds, in common. In folds and in fields, one feels with a foot, a path, a presence, a participle, presently without parrots. That word begins to sound like an interlude. And remember the hedgehogs, hardly hedgehogs, form and from an earlier pushing water. Not the last pushing water, but sometime before the dis-ease became, sometime before the house became a place for two. Anyone might make a line that becomes a border, but a line is just an infinity of points that might dissolve or must dissolve. Maybe enough water will fall to dissolve the lines. Dissolve as in gather and disperse, contract and release. A walk in the canyon where we see the dissolved rubies, the sand rubies. Bring your face closer, your eyes closer, in the sand, near the water, not the last or least. Some comfort in the flow of wetness, some gathering, some hand holding it all, like the hand of the dark woman in the Safeway grocery store who asked me what I do, and when I said I am a poet, she reached into her bag to hand me a poem of her own, because poetry is everywhere, certainly in the carts and bags of the dark women in the grocery stores who have heard the hawks and the horn sounds of psalms and loves, supreme and echoing in the wounds of those who return and in the wounds of those who do not return. Do you see the water of the fountain flowing over the edge of the concrete in a thin sheet? You can push your hand through and feel what was there and what will be there in the next wet place, perhaps the last wet place to push through, to walk in, to rest the poem where it might open to water, air, and light. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. Can we have another hand for both of our readers. Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming. Next week is our Future Poems last week here, and we're featuring Wendy Lauderman and Joe Malutis. So hope to see you there. We can hang out for a bit more, maybe about 15 minutes, I think, and there are books for sale. Yeah, thank you.